Yo, what's going on, guys? Koi here. Today we are playing The Forge, and I gotten into this game and I wanted to do like a top 10 tips and tricks because people give me a lot of questions, especially those who know me from my Roblox content. What's going on? What do I do? How do I become the best and how do I beat the game? And I can tell you from now, I beat the game in about 2 days, literally. So let's go ahead and get into my top 10 tips and tricks on how you can also beat the game in about 2 days. Or less, depending on if you do this better than I did. But let's go for the first one. First one is going to be pickaxe upgrading. Now, pickaxe upgrading, there's a trick to it, and it's a pretty cool one. So, for instance, whenever you actually start off in the first world, you'll have access to these very mediocre small pickaxes. You'll be able to buy one. Let's say I bought this 1,500. And let's say I wanted to upgrade to the $5,000 pickaxe. Now, the thing is, you will be able to upgrade to the $5,000 pickaxe if you actually keep the original pickaxe on you, which was the copper pickaxe that you start off with in the game. And then you sell the old pickaxe, you'll get a chunk of change, which is worth this pickaxe. So you'll see, boom, 1,125 back for just that pickaxe. Is this really going to make a major distance? I mean, look at how much you're actually getting back, though. If I sold which I do sell the mithril axe, and I sell it for about 30k, and I put that 30k towards getting the volcano axe, which is the magmite pick. So this is a very, very useful skill that you guys need to pay attention to in order to make sure that you don't waste too much money. And one other thing I would like to mention is that whenever we actually talk about the second world, and I just want to showcase this real quick, is the fact that whenever you do talk about the second world, you will go and you'll see that there's many other pickaxes. There's some that you want to skip. There's like a bonus for the first one. So for instance, you could do you can do cobalt, you can do titanium, you can do uranium, but all of these barely make a difference in terms of the actual progression here until you actually get the mithril pickaxe. See, if you get the cobalt, the titanium, or the uranium, you're still only going to be able to farm the same cores, the core ore that are here in this area. But in order to get the vein, which are the more larger and more industrious ores that give you a lot more for your buck, you need to get the mithril pickaxe. Once you get the mithril pickaxe and you want to start going towards the final pickaxe, you go deep into the caves where you actually get the magmite pickaxe from Amber, who will sell it to you for 150,000. So it is quite the journey, but honestly, it is very easy to do if you just pay attention to keeping your pickaxe, selling the old one, and putting that money towards your new one whenever you actually have all the money together. Now, for my next tips and tricks, we're going to number 2, and that is going to be how to determine value from worth. Now, this really just has to do with your, your items specifically. Whenever you have an item, you can actually determine the value and worth of an item depending on whenever you click on it. So as you can see over here, you see 2.25. And I'm just going to go ahead and just turn off the music real quick because it's kind of getting me. All right, 2.25 is the multiplier for this. And the 2.25 multiplier is good here. And then you'll see that ruby is good here, and this is epic. But keep in mind, there are some that are going to be better than others, and they're rarer. So for instance, this one's a 1.2, this one's a 1.3. Why is this one so mediocre compared to this one? Why is it doesn't give me a much better variant of a multiplier? It's because this one only comes with a 1.2 multiplier, easier to get. But this one you actually get from rocks and stuff. So it really just depends on which ones you're actually going to go for. For instance, if we actually talk about the end game ones, these come with a 4.6 multiplier, but they have a very, very rare chance at dropping from the veins in the mines. Same thing with this one here, but this one drops from every single rock in the second world. So there are some ways to determine the worth and value of these items, but paying attention to the actual style of it, such as this one's an epic and has a 3.3, which is pretty crazy. Like, these are things you need to pay attention to if you want to get the best out of your builds. But we'll talk more about that when we actually go into the building aspect of things. Second, I want to talk about the index and how you could use this to calculate all future damage. And this is a very big one on number 3. So once you actually start unlocking your index and you actually go into forging, you'll understand that there are like some numbers here. For instance, you'll see 4.3. So a 4.3 damage modifier here with a swing speed here, range here. Now none of this changes except for damage and base price whenever you actually start to implement forging. Now This is going to be, stick with me here, right? Keep in mind, 4.3 dagger, 4.3 dagger. Just want to put that out there so you guys can understand that while I come up and talk about the equipments that I brought for you guys today. So there are some daggers that I made here, and I'm going to explain how I made them and what is the difference between these daggers and why are they so different. So for instance, this titanium dagger was made of 2 titanium and 1 rivelite. The difference is, whenever you add titanium and rivelite to a mix, any type of like mix that you actually do, you'll understand that you'll get a percentage drop. Value matters a lot in this game. So if you want the highest value, I'll show you how. So rivelite and then 2 titanium is how I made that first one. Only gave me a 1.88 multiplier. That's because I added titanium, which dropped the multiplier for rivelite. If I added an I ore, it would actually boost the multiplier, making a much more successful dagger. So what I want to preface here is the fact that if you wanted to make a titanium dagger, for instance, and you wanted to like have titanium be your main, you would do something like put I ore instead to get that 2.1, or even something even higher to get 2.3. Now, does this work really? Only works like towards the very much the end game, because you're not going to get a lot of stuff to work with in terms of building your first arsenal. But the second one I made of 2 rivelite and 1 titanium. Keep in mind, masterwork, perfect. And the damage here difference is huger. But keep in mind, I made a sapphire one with 2 sapphire and 1 rivelite. Look at the damage and look at the quality. Now keep in mind, these 2 qualities are 2 different qualities, even though these daggers do the same damage. But this one does slightly more. Why does this do slightly more? Is because I actually went and used a much stronger percentage. So as you can see, I did 1 rivelite and 2 sapphire. They give me 2.61. But if I did the exact same thing and I did the 2 rivelite and 1 titanium, that gave me 2.6. Now, how does the modifier actually work? Now, this is how it works. Now, if we look at this cobalt one, why is it an 8.6 damage modifier on a gladius dagger? Now, this is a 1 times modifier. So it actually means that you're getting 50% bonus to the original dagger itself. That's how the bonus actually works. So for every 1%, every 1 times, you're getting a 50% modifier added to your dagger. So for instance, if we actually look at the material I made it out of, it has only got a 1 times multiplier. So every 1 times equals a 50% increase. So if I wanted to make like a dagger that had the craziest increase, it would be something like I ore with maybe mithril. I mean, no, lightite. There you go. I would get a 4.23%, 4.3. So which means I would have a 200% increase to that dagger, which means that 4 damage would go up to 4 times 8, 16, 20 something damage. So you see how these multipliers work. Now we understand that. That is a very, very large multiplier that you guys need to understand and how that works. And the multiplier gets stronger and the damage gets higher as you kind of work on future stuff. Let's talk about using achievement things on number 4. Number 4, using achievement skills. Now, I'm going to keep going into forging and stuff like that, but you guys need to understand that as you forge, as you slay monsters, as you mine, as you do everything in the game, you will get bonuses that you're able to equip and use in the game. Look at this. Rocks mined, and then I get a 15% bonus on my third one. Weaponsmithing. My attack speed boost goes up. Monster slaying. I get 24% more stamina. Let's see. Experience master. Levels reached goes up to 18% bonus right there. We'll go up to 24% once I actually get 100 levels in this game. And I would like to talk a little bit about levels for a second here, because levels are going to matter quite a bit in the same terms. So for instance, whenever we actually get here in the levels, and I'll talk about this when we talk about races and stuff, you will be able to unlock 2 other race slots. But we'll talk about that in a moment. So 5, literally 5. Which races should you pick, and how do you get to your races? So how to actually get to races, you actually have to go into the shop, and you actually have to go here into the race menu. But how do you put in codes for these races? You actually have to go up here to the cog wheel, scroll to the very bottom, and you'll see codes down here. This is also how you get your titles and stuff, guys, so don't forget to check out these settings. A lot of them are very useful, but already pre-made for you. So let's go ahead and talk about what we want to do here in the race menu. So as you can see, I have 2 races here. I have Dwarf and I have Minotaur. Why do I have Dwarf and why do I have Minotaur? Is because races do matter quite a lot in this game. For instance, what are the best races to actually get in this game? That would be Angel or Demon. Demon is the best race because it guarantees you a lot of damage and a high attack yield. And freaking Angel is the best because it gives you for mining and chances and luck. It gives you a lot of luck in this game. And when you actually do roll your race, you'll see that you get your race perk here, which will be down here. And these race perks are going to be their own thing. So sometimes you'll see perks be shared between certain characters maybe in the future. But just be sure whenever you actually want to unlock your first race roll, and this is actually pretty cool. When you unlock your first race roll, you actually unlock it at 30. Then your second race roll, you unlock at 100. So you'll be able to have 3 races that you could transfer to. And I would suggest having 1 race for mining, which would be good, like Elf, Dwarf, Angel. And then I would have 1 race for fighting, which would be like Orc, Minotaur, Dragonborn, Golem, freaking, obviously, Demon, and stuff like that. These races are going to be very, very helpful as you kind of progress into the game. And depending on which ones you actually get, some are going to be way, way stronger than others. So this is how you kind of get your races and stuff. So I hope you guys get lucky out there in terms of races. Next, we're going to be talking about number 6, unlocking the portal. Now, unlocking the portal actually has to do more with your sensei. So when you talk to the sensei in the first world, doing his entire quest line will actually unlock the portal. And this is what's going to help you get to the next world. And completing Moro Sensei's quest is going to be able to help you progress within the main story. And one honorable mention is going to be that all quests are side quests. Except for the main quest, which helps you actually continue throughout the story. And other stuff that unlocks more stuff. But, of course, that's a separate video. We're talking about how do we want to progress your character. And your character, a lot of the quests have nothing to do with your character. And that dude's in my face. All right, so next, runes and traits. Runes and traits. Now, runes and traits are actually pretty important. So, one, if we actually talk about runes and traits, we have to talk about equipments. How do you get stuff on equipments, stuff like that? How do you get runes and traits? And I'm telling you now, it has to do with with leveling up that equipment. So if we go to the enchanter over here, you'll see that whenever you actually unlock the enchanter quest, you'll be able to take an item to the enchanter and unlock stuff such as rune slots and all stats increase. So let's say I upgrade this one time, then I upgrade it twice, and then I upgrade it a 3rd time, you'll see, boom, now I have a rune slot at level 3. Now, at level 6, you get a 2nd rune slot. And I'm guessing at level 9 you get the last one, but I'm not going to go all the way out and do all that crazy stuff because that is actually crazy. The chances are every single time you actually do complete the enhancements, you actually will lose something out of that too. So you will lose stuff. And this has to do with traits too, but we'll talk about traits in just a moment here. But first things first, when it comes down to runing, you do want to pay attention to some things. Not all runes are the same. Now, this is a big thing that I see a lot of people mess up on. I have Berserker, but I also have this Berserker with Berserker Stride. You have to read it. You have to read it. Hear me out. Now, Berserker is probably not the best way to actually read this. We're actually going to use Thorns in this instance. So this one, Thorns, reflect 9% of physical damage taken with a maximum given of 5% of the user's health. That's cool. But if I go to this one and I go to Thorns, oh, what? Reflected 3% damage taken? This rune sucks. I don't want Thorns. No, it has to do with the rune itself. Now, the rune itself is pretty important. And I'm going to bring this up with my sword, for instance. And actually, runes go together to create even better runes, which is really, really cool. So, for instance, I click this rune right here that I already have on my sword. This one's Explosion 1. It's a blast chip with Explosion 1 and attack speed increase. Explosion 1 causes damage to the location of an enemy, increases dealing damage at 37% with a 12% chance to hit. That's pretty cool. But if I go to this one's a 35% chance with a 16% chance to hit. That's pretty cool too. But if I look at my weapon as I put those together, you'll see right here that also attack speed percent 15%, 30% attack speed increase, and explosion dealing 72% damage on a 16% chance to hit. Now, what does this mean? these actually do morph together in some weird way. Now, the thing is, there is a hard cap on the chance of hitting the explosion, but you actually have to get the highest chances on hit. And you'll see that on some other chips and stuff like that. You see this one 17% with a 40% damage. This is really good. I'm going to put this one on my other one. But that's if I had like a second trait. So do pay attention to second traits and stuff like that. This stuff does go up higher and higher. The better the traits, the better the item. And you can get random stuff with your traits and stuff like that. So do pay attention to those things. That's just the best advice I could give you. And let's talk about traits for a second, because how do you actually obtain traits? Now, the thing is, there's no real good video on doing this yet. I've tried, I've looked. What I've seen people do is just mess up how traits actually work. So let's talk about traits. So for instance, there are defensive traits and there are offensive traits. For instance, or will give you lethal. Rivet will give you critical hit rate. But how do you successfully get this on a weapon that you want? Now, the way that you actually successfully get this on a weapon that you want is actually by getting 30% of the actual weapon, 30% of the actual weapon on the piece. So for instance, it took me about 7 ore and 7 rivet with 8 titanium for me to get this piece right here, which is an 85 damage sword with the upgrades. Gives me 15% lethal, which is the full amount because it was still 30%. Above 30% still counts. And with the 20% critical hit chance, which is also a 20%, which is also the 30% of the work. And I'll put an example on screen for how that looks. But I think the best example I can show you is this light tight helmet. Now, this light tight helmet was actually made of 3 different materials, and I'll show you what those 3 materials were. It was uranium, mithril, and light tight. Now, what these grant is light tight grants movement speed, mithril grants, I forgot what the buff was, and uranium grants a passive that allows you to do AoE damage passively. So if we look at it, boom. Mithril gives you vitality plus 15% extra health. Light, obviously. Swiftness right here, movement speed, extra 15% movement speed. And then over here, radioactive, deal 5% of the max HP. Keep in mind, whenever you put these together, what do they equal? That's 1, 2, 3, 33%. And that's an infinite number, obviously. But 3, that's 33%. They share that 33%. So 33, 33, 33. Put them together, 100%. In theory. Mathematics is weird. But that's the way it works in this game. It is the rule of 3. So let's say I wanted to make something out of, let's say some type of armor here. I wanted to make some lightite with an ore and then some rivet. I would only get the benefit of the ore and the rivite on a weapon. But I would only get the benefit of lightite on an armor. Just make sure you actually pay attention to these things, because you won't get the most out of it unless you actually pay attention to how you do this. Very, very important to pay attention to those things. Okay. Last things, what to sell and what to keep. Stash capacity. Now, how do you actually keep stash capacity high, and how do you actually get more stash capacity? Now, the way that you actually get more stash capacity is actually just by leveling up. As you level up, you'll be able to get more stash, and as you level up and farm, you'll get more crap that you need to sell. So just don't forget to actually go in and sell all the stuff that you know doesn't have more than 1 trait. You want 2 traits on something. Oh, hang on. That was a flame spark. This one's lethality right there, so I'll keep that. Crappy second trait, though, so I'll actually sell it. Mining shard. This one's 8% luck. That's pretty good. Burn only. Rage with stride. Critical hit. Doesn't matter. Burn. Yeah. Burn. Rage. All this stuff I don't want because it just doesn't give me a lot of value in terms of how much it actually costs to put these things on. 10% extra stun damage on hit. So that's pretty cool. But it's burn, so I don't really like burn. Burn's kind of nerfed in this game. You won't really see it used very often. But if you get that on a much better item, then yeah, cool. But burn is pretty mid. Blast is pretty cool. Swiftness, look at that move speed right there. Reflection, eh. And then this one's attack speed 5%. Nah, not even good. Sell all the stuff that you need to sell. Just be done with it. Trust me, it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. So, next we're going to talk about always use potions. So, always use potions. These potions are freaking sick. They only cost $300 and you can pop them like candy. These things, like for instance, the lucky potion will grant you the ability of getting a bonus luck of like pretty much an extra 20%. You see, extra 20% luck on top of your like your pickaxe and stuff like that. And then if you look at your other buff, the mining potion 1, that was a 15% mining faster buff with a 10% mining damage buff. So that means you're going to do 10% more damage to rocks as you swing your pickaxe, which is pretty big as you kind of progress into the game, and also helps you complete veining, mining stuff like veins and lava rocks and all the other stuff as you kind of progress. Now, if I still have your attention and you got to the end of the video, I appreciate you, and I hope you wouldn't mind me asking for a like and stuff like that. I just need to know that this is going to get out to more people, and they're going to be able to understand a lot more about the game as we progress into it. And if you guys want me to see more content, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I will post about it if you guys want me to. Of course, I got a lot of Roblox fans here. Now, there's just one thing I wanted to just kind of put out there, and that is going to be how do you actually get, like, how do you sell? Like, that's going to be my number 10, is how to make the most money in the game. And honestly, there's some ways to do it, but we also need to talk about how to unlock the other weapons too as we talk about this. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because some stuff is only accessible in the second world. So for instance, if we actually look at this stuff, we'll go to weapons first. You'll see the hook. This is not accessible in the first world. The longsword, not accessible in the first world. The scythe, not accessible in the first world. The odachi, not accessible in the first world. These are things you guys need to pay attention to, and keep in mind that you also lose some stuff if you want to craft something, let's say like the boxing gloves. They're not available here. So you won't be able to get the boxing gloves here, but you'll be able to get them in the first world. So you gain some and you lose some, and there's still a chance that you might not craft the piece that you want. So I wish you guys very much luck on that, because you can mess this up, and you can, like, obviously not get a Chaos Blade with the best stats on it. But let's talk about making some money. And the best way to make some money, too, is going to be by working on armor. Now, the reason why is because whenever you have all this extra stuff, first things first, we want to use up whatever crappy epic that we have. So, for instance, we're going to use Cooprite. We're going to keep it with that epic tag. How do we keep the epic on here? And it's easy to do that, actually. It's actually by going in and putting about 9 of the exact same amount. So if you put the same amount as the epic, the better quality will always take over in terms of look. So that's very important. So even if I want to throw in some sapphire here and some diamonds here, that will still keep the Coopite at the end of the day. So now we're going to be aiming for, let's say, some heavy. We need something heavy here. We need some actual heavy stuff. So we're going to actually hit amethyst, and we're going to go ahead and hit amethyst up to 9, and we're going to go ahead and take out the diamonds here, and we're going to put in bonite instead, just for weight. We don't really care too much about the multiplier here. I could go for the multiplier here, and that would give me a lot more. And that's the thing. If you want more money, the more the multiplier you need to worry about. So obviously, if we go here and we go to here, you'll see that amethyst is a very good multiplier, and then sapphire is also a great multiplier. So now we got heavy leggings on the board. Let's say we want to do another one that has a really good multiplier. It's going to be, let's say, like rubies. Rubies 2.2. I don't really want to give up rubies just for a 2.2. What about emeralds? Heavy chestplate 13%. And you'll see as you put in more weight, the more stuff that you'll be able to unlock as you kind of go through. So right now, heavy leggings, heavy helmet. And I guess we'll just go for the all the way, and we'll go for the 2.2. So this is going to give us, oh, my bad. I forgot to sell something. Okay, so that's going to give us a little bit there. It's cool. We're going to go ahead and just sell something here, and we're going to sell it and try to get some better stuff here. Sorry. All these daggers that don't mean anything now. All right, there we go. And that gives you 3,000. Now, that was just a bunch of trash. Now, what we're going to make is we're going to make like one really, really big piece here. And that we're going to use Coopite to make it. Then we're going to do amethyst again. And then we're going to do sapphires. And then we're going to do rubies. And then that should do it. That gives us heavy leggings, heavy helmet. And you guys want to make sure that you actually just do this minigame perfect. So, for instance, you could hold this down and then just go up and down. I like to use the thumb method where I just shake my mouse with one hand. And then after that, I'm really just doing the minigame here. I'm going to be real. All right. Okay. Let's see. Oh man, I'm messing this up. Any mess up could really add to just messing up the whole thing. And we got looks like we got medium for sure. Okay. Now, the thing is, to make money, you actually have to sell stuff that has the highest value. But to get the most out of like armor and stuff like that, it's gonna have nothing to do with this part. So here we're gonna get something very, very high value here. Perfect, epic, $2,000. Now the thing is, the value of that item, since it was a medium, it wasn't close to the actual heavy armor value. So medium armor, that only gives you about 850. But to get that 50% modifier, we also need to make sure that we always do that one time. So one times will give us 50% modifier, which will turn that into times 5. That's about 1,000, a couple thousand something. And then after that, if we go to the actual like heavy armor, you see the multiplier starts to add a lot more. But the health modifier is actually the one that you want to pay attention to if you want to work on something for you. So if you want the highest health in the game and stuff like that, you want that health modifier to go all the way up in order to actually get the most out of that item. This doesn't work the exact same with weapons, for instance, because weapons doesn't really, there's not really a major change in weapons besides some of them damage-wise. So, for instance, Crusader Sword actually gets debuffed if you actually get a longsword. It doesn't make a major difference at all. The Odachi actually gets a slight damage difference with the slight attack speed difference. But if you look at something like Great Sword, between Great Sword and Damage Slayer, just damage straight up. Between the hammers, just damage and then swing speed straight up. But remember, these buffs will only add up to so much. So just get what you want. And if you guys are focused on getting like a very particular sword, just don't forget some swords could be better. Like for instance, the Chaos Blade is actually the best version of a sword in the game, because you actually get your hands on like a decent sword with good attack stat and good attack speed. So that is just me though. Don't forget range and stuff like that also matters. And the value will stay the same among all the swords of their certain class. So like for instance, gloves don't add up to much. Crusader Sword doesn't add up to much. Now once you start getting to colossal swords, you'll get more. But if you want to make more money, it's always going to be straight up just heavy, 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 heavy. That's how you get the money. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take it easy and peace out.